Sales is a ruthless industry. We are judged only by the numbers. Complete freedom of calling me an idiot, but they're shit at sales. Definitely quality over quantity. The moment you stop spending, Google kind of fucking puts you on red alert. Don't get too attached to your brand.
SEO's most liked sales trainer.
And I've got no idea. Sometimes the thing which scares you the most is actually a blessing in disguise. He calls himself the UK's weirdest cold calling trainer.
There are two types of agencies. One who are good at doing SEO. Ones are those people who can sell ice to an Eskimo.
Playing Jenga while he's fucking cold calling people. Your first 6 months are your Holy Bible or your Bhagavad Gita. First impressions are last impressions. I'm a firm believer of that.
We could actually achieve what we achieve in 10 years in 3 years actually.
I'm not an idiot. He sometimes sends me voice notes worth 20 minutes long. And I was like, what the fuck? Just call me, mate. We can have a chat. One thing which has worked for me all the time are voice notes.
Hey everybody, my name is Gundeep Singh and I today welcome Steven Khanna on my podcast. And Steven, thank you so much for agreeing to come. We really wanted you to come on our podcast, and as I was just saying, this is actually the best time for us to actually understand, because everything in an agency depends on the clients, and everything on clients and getting clients depends on the sales. And I think for most of the companies or most of the processes everywhere in the world, I think sales is the most important key. Before you, we also interviewed Manik Bhan, and he said a very nice thing that there are two types of agencies. One who are good at doing SEO or maybe good at doing stuff and technically good, and ones are those people who can sell ice to an Eskimo, who are good at sales. And which one makes more money? Who are good at sales, right? So if talent can meet good sales, I think that will be the best combination, and that's why I am here. Actually, this is very much my own benefit as well, to actually have a masterclass directly from you. So I'm lucky enough, and thank you so much for coming. Let's begin.
Brilliant, mate. Likewise. Yeah, I think I did watch Manik Bhan's episode, a bit of it, and I remember him mentioning about two kinds of agencies: really good at SEO, but don't know how to talk when they're on discovery calls, the follow-up cadence, the SOPs, and all of that. And then they sat there twiddling their thumbs like, what the fuck's going wrong? Because we're not getting as many clients. And I agree, mate. As long as a product it doesn't even have to be a fantastic product, mate. Because I'm a firm believer, brands like Apple or Nike, they don't need sales guys, because the brand sells on its own. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
As long as it's a mediocre product and your project deliverability score is anything between 85 to 90%, your churn would always be low. And with a fantastic sales team, hungry bastards like the wolves of SEO within the Wall Street would be. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the chat, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. And so for everybody, Steve and Steven. I think Steven is the right pronunciation, right?
Steven's the right pronunciation, but a lot of people just end up calling me Steve.
Yes.
It's nicer, it's shorter, it's more friendlier.
Yeah. Actually, we were researching on you and we came to know that, okay, it's like that. Anyways, yeah. So Steven has been called as SEO's most liked sales trainer. Am I right?
Yeah.
So I want to know that you've been quoted many times as Steven is the best in making frameworks, and you've got full DMs of testimonials. We've done thorough research on you actually, but I want to know for the audience, who is actually Steven Khanna, and who was Steven Khanna before all these big testimonials and this big name? Tell me a bit backstory about yourself.
Yeah, definitely, mate. So this is on the main streets of London for a number of years, where I come from the restaurant trade and the wine trade. I've managed multi-million pound Michelin star restaurants back in the UK. I'm also a certified wine sommelier. Worked with Gordon Ramsey for 5 years. This was me fresh out of uni, mate, just passing out my CVs and everything. And I've always been a firm believer that if you've been fairly successful in the restaurant trade, I think you can pretty much be okay in any industry you go with, considering there are a lot of transferable skills. And as long as I'm not doing surgery in a hospital or building NASA space rockets, you normally get by, because what happens is you come across so many different expectations within a framework of a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you celebrate a birthday. Your expectations out of that evening is completely different to table 7 next to you, which could be a romantic couple who needs quietness. Now, we as restaurant managers have to think further ahead. Hang on a second, we've got a big birthday table here who's going to be loud. We can't put a romantic table right next to that. Both of them would be just annoyed because they'll keep giving each other nasty looks, and and there's clearly a complaint about to happen. So all that prep work, i.e., being proactive with expectations and asking the right questions up front, would then lead to a loyal customer, and obviously them getting you more customers. But I'll get into the nitty gritties of it later, because I'm kind of veering off from the question. So I did that for about 23 years, got into wines. Met my wife. She's Polish. I'm actually in Poland now. I've been living here for the last 10 years. We moved here.
Wow.
And Poland, even though it's progressing, it's not a English speaking country. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do in Poland? So I was like, fuck it, let's just try and do something different. And I just had a go at different career options, mate. I once became an English teacher. Don't know how the fuck that happened. I've got no idea. And I stayed there for about 3-4 years doing it. Finally got back into B2B and B2C sales, heading the export department of a local wine distribution company. And then probably it was always meant for me to be in SEO, even though I didn't really give me a lot of chance. I ran into my ex-boss, who's the CEO now at WhitePress, which is like a link building marketplace.
Yes.
And the town where I live, it's a really small town. So every Friday, all the expats kind of come in, we have a chit chat. Basically, it's another piss up, mate. We trying to get drunk again. That's what's happening.
I get it.
And he just ended up sitting right opposite to me. We started talking, and he said, "Oh, do you know what is SEO?" I was like, "No idea what you're talking about, mate." And it took me like 6 months, numerous meetings for me to go into WhitePress's offices just to try and understand what the fuck is SEO. And I gave myself 3 months let's try it. There wasn't any pressure to kind of, pay the bills and all of that, because my wife runs a marketing agency here in Poland as well, right?
Okay.
And I had a bit of savings back from the UK. I was like, yeah, fuck it, we'll try it. Well, it's been 4.5 years now, and probably as people and God says, sometimes the thing which scares you the most is actually a blessing in disguise. And that's exactly what happened with me finding my niche, or this newfound love in SEO, because I quickly found out, hang on a second, SEOs are really clever people, but they're shit at sales. They got fucking no idea how to sell, how to talk, how to follow up, what systems. So I'm enjoying my journey, but I think in my heart of hearts, no matter fancy job titles, whatever, mate, I'll be truly 2 things always in my life. I'll always be a salesman or a sales guy, even though people don't like to hear the word sales. And I'll always, what I've said it when I was in restaurants, I think I always love serving people or just being a waiter, even though I was general manager for a number of years, because the mentality is once the doors open or once the show starts, your job titles go out of the window, mate. No one cares if you're a founder, you're a sales rep, you're an SEO growth manager. Your job is to deliver ROI, experience, and wowing the client, whether it's an SEO agency or a restaurant.
Got it. Very well said. And I think, as you just said, I just noted this down, the point when you said that in restaurants, there are 2 tables, and one is a couple and one is maybe a birthday party, and they would complain that. So having that kind of eye and that kind of understanding, I think that's also helping you a lot in giving experience, a better experience to the people. And that, I think that's somewhere the background of how a good person or a good mindset begins. I think that's how it begins. What I'm trying to say, it helped you, that process and that kind of vision and that kind of, like you said that you're also you've been serving, although you've been general manager, but I think you like happy smiles and people are satisfied with your experience. I think that's the kind of things you are good at.
Yeah, I'll kind of baseline it with one
Yes.
small comment there. Call me old-fashioned, mate, but first impressions are last impressions. I'm a firm believer of that. I'll give you a bit of a insight, and I hope Gordon Ramsey doesn't kill me for that. So the restaurant where I was working, he had small restaurant, low ceilings. There were secret
Okay.
cameras installed up there. Why? Because
Okay.
he had a fixed menu, and once the main courses were served, he used to rush into his office because he wanted to see the first impressions of people when they take the first bite. Because
Wow.
he always thought you cannot fake the first impression or the first bite. So he
Wow.
was zoomed in, and that's how his entire ethos of what's going to be next on the menu, how to qualify if this dish or service in an SEO agency, for example, is good enough for the client. Of course, there needs to be data backed with it as well. There needs to be
Correct.
consistency and pattern to it. But I think end of the day, it's important. No matter what you're selling, humans would always be emotional animals. You got to appeal to
Correct.
the emotions first and the logic later. And there's one sales mantra I live by, and a lot of people can do quote me for that. Like, trust, win. What that means is if they like you, they'll trust you. If they trust you, you'll win their business. But that liking bit starts very early, and you need to keep hitting the nail on the head time after time after time after time, but not faking it. Just be yourself. But I know a lot of people say, oh, you got to be yourself, true to a certain point. But if predominantly you're an asshole and not a people friendly person, you can't be yourself, because clearly that's detrimental to the business. So what people
Yes.
really mean is be yourself. What they really mean is be up to a certain point where people start liking you and start
Yes.
following your advice and trusting you. And if you're not at that level, look at someone, try to get to that level. To be
Yeah.
honest, a lot of this stuff I do, yes, I'll probably say 70% is just natural instincts, experience,
Okay.
things, skill set. But I also constantly learn. I'm going to drop a name here now. In the UK, there's this Italian guy, and I love him to bits. He calls himself the UK's weirdest cold calling trainer. His name is Geuilio Sagantini. He has videos of
Okay.
himself playing Jenga while he's fucking cold calling people. And some of his opening lines are like, if he was calling you, Gundeep, it could be, Gundeep, this is Geuilio. We don't know each other, but without ruining your Monday morning, if I said this was a cold call. You know, he adds humor to cold calling. And I've picked up certain things looking at his videos. So I'm also constantly reviewing, oh, maybe this thing, like there was a time where I used to use this opening line. Gundeep, I know this is not a scheduled call, but give me 36 seconds and it'll make perfect sense. Time me if you want. You know, 6 out of 10 times people used to have a laugh about it and say, okay, mate, go for it, I'm timing you. So it became a bit of a joke, but it was never 36 seconds. It was always 3, 4, 5
Correct.
minutes on a call.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
you're
yes.
trying to get your foot in the door. But then I realized, hang on a second, it's becoming a bit boring because I'm losing that emotional connection I was building. Oh, I need to bring in something new. And that's where a lot of agencies fail. Well, they either won't have a system in place, but once they have a system, they never adapt or tweak for the next 24 months, 36 months, which is crazy. Because if you apply the same logic to your life, you don't live like that, do you? Like, you take a shower every day, you cut your hair every now and then because when you feel, oh fuck, I need a haircut, so you're constantly updating yourself. You do kind of refurbishment at home because you want a newer touch to it. Why is that? Because people get bored quite quickly. So it's
Yes.
weird people apply all that framework, instincts and common sense to their personal life, but when it comes to applying it to the sales system or to their business model, they don't seem to do it. that often.
Yes. Correct. Very well said. I have a lot of questions, but let's go by the book, and then it's going to be a long conversation. I'm sure I'm going to extract a lot of things. Amazing. Very excited. Okay, so sales is quite noisy, right? Everyone's talking about scripts, hacks, or maybe magic lines, right? But what's something you thought that no, this is something I need to go more deeper, where I think there's something better to come? So what's that maybe?
Yeah, so definitely quality over quantity. Um,
Okay.
Yet, I'm not saying do your highly 10 personalized emails and all of that and then sit back and hope to
Uh-huh.
get lucky. You got to manage the classic
Okay.
sales funnel mentality. The more you put in, the more
Acha.
you get out. However, personalization is becoming the key to it. Let me dig deeper into the sales process. So let's assume I was training one of your sales guys at your agency, and we
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, we're going to go after SaaS in the US and UK, whereas your services could be my content, CRO, could be links, whatever that might be,
Mm-hmm.
right? We
Mm-hmm.
go into Apollo, we put in our filters, we generate a list down, we transfer it to the Excel, we put 70% of that on a template email sequence through Apollo or through Instantly, with a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic follow-up cadence to it. But I would want that guy to pick his top 300 companies based on that list, which, if you know
Okay.
you win two people out of those, that looks after your entire ARR, your annual targets done. But then what you're doing is you're going onto their website, you're looking at the abouts page, you are zoning in onto the decision maker, you're checking what they do on socials, you're checking how active they are on LinkedIn, and
Wow.
you're just
Wow.
trying different theories, but not just text. A lot of people have this over reliance on text messages because now obviously AI has come into the picture, so people are becoming even more lazier. One thing which has
Yes.
worked for me all the time in the digital nomad space are voice notes. People would
Oh.
people would quote me that Steve's a fucking voice note generator. I'm gonna drop another name here. James Dooley is the worst offender when it comes to voice notes. He sometimes sends me voice notes worth 20 minutes long, and I was like, "What the fuck? Just call me, mate. We can have a chat." But jokes apart, I've had so much success just by doing voice notes. Why is that? There's a logic behind it. Again, it's that like, trust, win mentality. Now, those days are gone when we could just knock on the door and have a face to face chat. We can't do that.
Correct.
How do you get to the person who's sitting millions of miles away to start liking you so that he can actually listen to you? Right, what's the best thing? Let him hear your voice. And if you are articulate, you sound empathetic on your voice note, and you're driving a bit of common sense and value with a touch of humor mixed to it, 7 out of 10 times you would get a response. Another classic example, this was month 3 in White Press. I had no idea
Okay.
who was Ferry Kashoni. No idea. Didn't I was a newbie in White Press. And I'm scrolling on a Sunday. I'm sitting in my wife's car scrolling LinkedIn, and I saw Ferry Kashoni's post. I was like, oh, that guy has an agency. Maybe we can sell some links to it. And I dropped a voice note to him. Within the next 5 minutes, the guy responds to me. He actually starts then buying links, and this is last year in Saigon. Myself, Ferry Kashoni, and Jason Hennessy. We were just standing having a chit chat. Obviously, Ferry's a great friend of mine. He said, Jason, the only reason I responded to Steve, even though I knew he was trying to sell, because he was different, he wanted to connect with me. And when he dropped a voice note on LinkedIn, I was like, oh, that's different. That's something unique. Right. Let me chat to him. And that's what you want as a classic sales guy. You're never trying to sell in the first call. A lot of people have this first call close mentality. In the SEO space, it does not work like that. In the SEO space, it comes across people would fucking go away from you if you're trying to close
Yes.
in the first call. So I think the buying cycle has gone, at least in the SEO space, has gone slightly longer with all the updates, with all the havoc Google causes to us. It needs
True.
to be carefully orchestrated in order to win a deal, especially if you're dealing with enterprise clients. it's a game of chess. You've got to be a step ahead. You've got to be with them all the time. And I've said this to every salesperson I have trained. I said, in your new job, mate, your first 6 months are your Holy Bible or your Bhagavad Gita. You eat, sleep, repeat numbers, mate. If you show that you've converted enough clients and there's enough in the pipeline, then really your next 2 years are absolutely secure within that organization, because sales is a ruthless industry. People like us, we are judged only by the numbers. There's nothing else we could do. We couldn't be just showing effort with zero conversions to it. So, long story short, you got to mix intuition, data, trends, and a bit of AI. However, you should never, ever, ever lose the personalized and human touch which generates a response. Because everyone talks about AI, and we're all clever people, mate. So if you're getting the same terminology or the same tone of, oh, this is an AI written content, a human might have designed it, but I don't think the person really knows about my business. People switch off very quickly. So first impressions, last impressions, what you're really making sure is, if you're sending out, which I firmly believe it works, if you're sending out highly personalized 35 cold emails a day, by the end of week 3, you should start to get 5% positive responses, which would then start in month 2. It should start leading to 5 to 6 discovery calls a week. And by the end of month on month, you are closing 2 to 3 clients every month. And if your average order value and your LTV is substantial enough, happy days, man.
Great.
Obviously you tweak things based on your target. It all comes down to the targets. If you don't have a sales plan, you don't know where you want to be, which should be realistic, of course, not plucked out of thin air. Then the entire strategy has to be built on that.
Okay, I'm going to say something which is quite opposite to what you just said, just to take your impression, your first impression of what you feel about that. Is that now you might have heard about AI agents, right? So there's a traditional way which you abide by, which I see, and I think which I'm going to even follow. And I've recently we've started sales, and we've been following a very similar process, something similar. We've been sending videos, actually Loom videos and stuff, and it has worked. We've already landed 3 clients with that. So having said that, now there's an age of AI agents as well, and we've been testing out. We've personally been testing out and developing an AI agent, which is actually like, it is very realistic. So I'm giving you 2 situations now. One is the one which you just said, that there's a personal voice note or a personal call or maybe personalized emails, and the second is that in the bulk, like I have maybe 5,000 numbers. I am calling, using an AI agent which is calling them, and it is very realistic actually. Now, do you think that bulk approach, calling everybody, cold calling, proper cold calling with an AI agent, is that a future you see in sales, or you see that the traditional is always going to work more?
Yeah, Gundeep, I wish I had a clear answer to that, mate. I'm not going to sit here and lie. We're still early days within the AI space, testing AI agents. Yes, time would tell, but sitting here today, I think I can confidently say, having sold upwards of 60, 70 million pounds worth of products in my career of B2B and B2C sales, sales would always be a purchase connecting two human beings where a lot of emotions are attached to it. Someone investing your money into you as a brand and you as a person, that person needs to know, if things go tits up, if you can't deliver, that person, that brand would always be there for me. What I'm saying is, hope for the best,
I get it,
and plan for the worst. And I think that planning for the worst only comes when you're actually doing, right from the first call. Now, I could be proven wrong, mate. And as I said, at the top of the call, I'm also constantly trying to rediscover myself and mend my ways and kind of be with the time. I could be saying something completely different in 2 years' time and sitting here being the best AI agent sales trainer. Who the fuck knows? But early doors, I can't put my finger on the pulse that AI agents is the future. We clearly would be leveraging that. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I think the humanizing part in sales would never go away. Would never ever go away.
Very well said. Actually, I think that's the best golden ratio about this thing. We've seen that you've got skyrocketing AOVs, you've got near to zero churns, you've delivered that, and repeat revenue, right? What would you say that is surprising, which you've seen? Like you've seen that this is something which no one is focusing on, which you think that something is completely off, completely missing.
Like a lot of my clients are small to medium-sized agencies, digital marketing, SEO. And I know a lot of founders don't like hearing this. They themselves are the biggest bottleneck. To be honest, when I've asked them in terms of lead gen, what have we done? And the agency's been open for like fucking 7, 8, 10 years, mate. They do a lot of testing on websites themselves, and they're classic nerds. They'll fantastic engineers kind of mentality. I think it takes a while for them, and I'm saying number of years, to realize actually sales is such an important part, or being out there, getting embarrassed sometimes, being rejected. Because what I've seen is their own self-pride, because they're highly clever, intelligent people, and they've seen success with whatever clients they are managing and handling. I've got a couple of the clients who are really good friends of mine, and we've gone out to conferences, we had a few drinks, and in their partial drunken state, when I've asked them a similar question, just once again, mate, because you've never answered this question, why didn't you do this 5 years earlier or 3 years earlier? Why did you have to wait? He said, Steve, it was my ego. It was my self-pride. The thing of reaching out to people, even their active clients, you've got so much success. And I'm not going to name names. There's one I was talking to last week. I said, listen, I'd sent you templates for getting referrals from your active clients. Did you start that? No, I haven't. What are you waiting for? What's stopping you? Yeah, I'm not sure if they would be happy to get my email. I said, mate, if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah, no one's going to come to you. It's their hesitance. They're part of the personality, and because they're founders, they don't allow that process to happen. Then, it's sales is, as I'll say again, the entire sales space, industry, funnels. It's an unforgiving world. Everyone's out there trying to sell, but what they don't realize is a lot of SEO agencies don't have a sales system, so it's early adoption. Even now, it's not too late. So if you put that structure in place, you'll suddenly catapult yourself, which I've seen over the past, few months. One of the biggest brands in the SEO space I'm working, where their conversion percentage was up until end of 2024, 35%, and they wanted to hit 40% by the end of this year. They've got 2 salespeople. They're already hitting 39.6, 39.8%. Average order value, which was 800 odd pounds, to now 1,200, 1,300 pounds. Just by simply asking basic questions, mate. Things like, have you factored in SEO budgets for the next 2 quarters?
Wow.
Yeah, what are your timelines? When are you looking to kick off your campaigns to get organic traffic growth? Objections when they say, oh, I'm not sure if I've got the budget. I've always said this to some of the discovery calls I go to. I said, are you telling me you didn't budget for success? And they kind of go back. And they say, oh, actually, I've never thought of it that way. I said, you need to budget for success. And I've clearly shown you by screen sharing Ahrefs where the gaps, how quickly can you rank for certain low-hanging keywords with a keyword difficulty of less than 10, with the traffic potential being on the top half of page 1. So what are you waiting for, mate? It's like you need to pull the trigger yesterday. It's all about discovering the pain, driving the knife in deeper with honey and butter on both sides of the knife so they don't feel the pain. The last thing you want to do as a sales guy when you're discovering pain is to actually embarrass them or insult them. That's what you shouldn't be doing. So you need to be very careful with wordings when you're on discovery calls. It's not a fucking FBI investigation or an interrogation that.
Yes. True.
Because you're clearly talking to a founder whose ego and self-pride is right up there. So you've got to be very careful and tiptoeing your way when you're trying to make a point and then get it too call close to them. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, a lot of. I'm getting goosebumps, you see. Alright, time for a sponsor break. This episode is proudly sponsored by Kings Digital, the marketing agency that I, your host, Gundeep Singh co-founded. At Kings Digital, we specialize into scaling businesses, optimizing growth strategies, and turning your ideas into brands that people can't stop talking about. You might be thinking self-promotion in your own podcast? Well, that's quite bold. That's because that's exactly what we do for our client. Bold strategies that bring results. So if you're a business owner or an agency who wants to level up your marketing, your processes, whether it's SEO, ads, social media, performance marketing, we're building a killer brand presence for you. If you want us to audit your website or your ads campaign, just fill up the form below. We will get back to you with a full-blown SEO audit, a complete 6 to 12 months SEO roadmap tailored to your business, and a step-by-step video walkthrough breaking down exactly how to fix and scale your organic traffic. This isn't some cookie cutter checklist. Trust me, our team spends an entire day crafting this report. Trust me, if we're good enough to sponsor ourselves, we're probably good enough to help you crush your goals. Alright, that's enough of us now. Now let's get back to the show. You know why I'm being so excited right now? Because whatever you just said is so much resonating with me. The ego part, what you just said, is actually is the major reason that I consider that many people would say that we are a very successful agency. We are, but if I look at it at a broader eye, we could actually achieve what we achieve in 10 years in 3 years actually. So what we are right now, the major growth was after 2021. And these 3 years have been massive, but what we achieved in these 3 years, we could achieve back in 2018. The only reason was ego. And this ego that I was, especially me, it was me actually what was the problem, and the whole problem was that the same thing, that I had this ego, which why would I ask for this, why would I tell them for the referrals, same thing, actually very exact same example. And why would I ask for a testimonial?
And there are ways around it, mate, as you said, and I completely get that. Founders and CEOs would always have their egos, right? Okay, employ someone else who would take a bullet for you, who would actually ask the uncomfortable questions. And this is again, which I always advise the founders of agencies. I said, guys, don't get too attached to your brand. It's a business, mate. It's there to make you money when you're sleeping, especially when you're sleeping. So
correct.
Get the people who are good at approaching people, getting slapped down, but they're always looking for that 1 or 2 wins. And sales would always be that growth engine any business would need, no matter what you're selling, but especially in this crowded market of SEO and digital marketing, where it's constantly changing. There's peaks and troughs every year. Google comes in. Let's face it, we're all at the mercy of Google. Even more so, you need that salesperson, because a clever sales guy would know how to leverage your little wins and make them really big in front of the client's eyes.
Yes.
There's another classic mistake agencies do. They close the client, let's assume on $3,000 a month, but they've never asked them, are you actually spending all of your money with us? Who knows, their budget could be fucking $8,000 and they're not spending all of that. So I normally set a roadmap up. I give them the entire shebang, and I know their budget usually is about $8,000. But I purposely disarm that conversation. I said, listen, don't believe a word I'm saying. Let's take baby steps. Let's do a test campaign for the next month. if I'm giving you a keyword list of 25 keywords to rank for, let's go after the first 3 within the first month and a half. There's a money back guarantee for the first 10 links, for example, if you don't like it. There's no risk for you. But once I rank you for that, would you be able to commit your entire $8,000 to us for the next 6 to 12 months? It's give and take. So you already setting expectations quite early in your relationships. People take that initial money and then they run away. Oh, brilliant! We won. We've got a client. But hang on a second, mate. You should be asking if they don't have money to spend. You say, oh, do you think you can take out 20% more from your PPC spend and start dropping that budget into SEO, because there's clearly cumulative growth. So these are all clever triggers, but have to be said at the right time. And the only way you could do it if you know the entire roadmap, the journey of where we can get this client and how I can strategically keep going back and ask for more, because clearly I'm driving value. So if I'm driving an ROI of 300-400% on your investment, which could be very similar to your PPC, but then you see the cumulative growth in 24 months. Hang on a second, why the fuck should you be spending on PPC? Not that I say people should stop spending on PPC, because we know the moment you stop spending on Google Ads, Google kind of fucking puts you on red alert.
Yes.
Yet you continue. You know how it is with Google, mate.
I agree to this. It's a very big debate, and I agree to this actually. When we stop Google as our SEO rankings, also we see what's happening. We've seen that.
Correct. So you got to feed the beast strategically and keep the illusion in front of Google that no, my loyalties lie towards you, but very cleverly build an organic system in place when even if the updates happen, you are firmly secure, like plan A and plan B. So sometimes I've used this technique and I said, guys, SEO is your plan B, is your safety net. Tomorrow, if your leads dry up and your phone stops ringing, you don't have money to spend on Google Ads, which is becoming expensive day by day, week on week. What are you going to do? How are you going to generate? I said your block section's a mess. Your internal linking is hardly non-existent, right? There are thousands of keywords you could be ranking for. But if you don't show the pain, you don't drive the knife in, honey dipped, and you don't come across as a solution with an entire roadmap, you're not doing your job as a salesperson.
Correct. I had a podcast with Irfan Azimi, the guy who leaked the Google API, and I used to see this before this podcast, I used to see that, okay, we are running Google Ads, but when we stop, there's a shift in the rankings as well. So this is correlated, but there was no open discussion on this. And then Irfan in the podcast openly said with the patents that this is in the API leak and this is actually like this. It works. So there's a proof of that he's gathered. And then now you're the guy again who's saying this, so I'm getting more of this as a evidence, you can say. But yeah, actually we've seen it happens. So the cleverest, the most smartest way you've used, I think that's the best description you said, that feed the beast and then cleverly be smart enough to actually work on the other sides of the things. I think that's the best description. Amazing. Tell me one thing. I can see that you have a very good understanding of SEO as well, right? So does that give you an edge when you're sales or maybe training the other agencies, because you've been training agencies and founders as well, I've seen. Does having an edge on SEO is also helping you in the process, or maybe you're giving a person like me knowledge with the evidence of SEO, like, see, these are, like you just mentioned in the example, these are the low-hanging fruit keywords. So I was actually very amazed to see this, that you have quite a bit good hold on SEO. So is that helping you in the process?
100, man. That's my USP with me winning clients within the SEO space, and a lot of these new sales guys I've helped to hire for different agencies. Just to let you know, and for your viewers, if someone's looking to hire really driven, clever sales guys who don't cost a lot of money, look at South Africa. There are lots of talented salespeople coming out of South Africa. They've done sales their entire life. And they have said, a lot of them when I've been training, they said, Steve, you're like fucking God sent angel for us because you have that perfect sweet spot of a sales guy, but you also know about SEO. So what I do is when I'm training them, I give them the right balance of how much you should be knowing in order to keep your conversion percentages up and close clients month on month. Whereas if a founder who's never done sales ends up training them, it's fucking data after data after data. So you're kind of creating a replica of yourself who's amazing at SEO, but when you go on discovery calls, you sound like you're talking matrix, and you know it if you're talking to brands, e-commerces and all of that. Mate, a lot of them have no fucking idea what is SEO. A lot of them don't even know what the fuck's Ahrefs. And then we go into this long spiel of blah, 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 we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the client's like, people will never buy stuff if they are scared, intimidated of, or it sounds too confusing. So it's our job to simplify it, break it down into bite-sized portions, and literally bullet point it for them. Again, the ICP and different personas of who you're talking to comes into the picture. My discovery call to a founder would be completely different to me talking to an SEO manager.
Okay.
This is what I train the salespeople with my added advantage of whatever SEO I know. And I said, so basically, like one of the things I do apart from all the SOPs and the framework I build, the one thing I focus a lot, which is the central pillar, is the discovery call framework or the script. Sometimes I even go granular, word to word, how you should be going through the discovery process and how you should be closing a call with a soft CTA at the end in order to make sure that the client closes within the first 3 to 4 days, if not on the call. So yes, 100%, I'm blessed in a lot of ways that because of my SEO knowledge, it makes me stand out in the SEO space because it's the perfect mix, it's the perfect balance. The guy knows SEO, but he's also a sales guy. Brilliant, let's get him on board.
Wow, too much knowledge. Amazing. Okay, so now let's talk about sales without scripts. Okay, let's look at this segment. Okay, so I have a few questions on this. Okay, so you worked with dozens of agencies and teams, right? And even with founders or CEO level people. What's one invisible sales bottleneck you see is present and which founders even don't know about?
They don't even know where the fuck do they want to be by the end of Q2. Like when I ask them, right, what's your target, mate? Yeah, I'm at 20 grand MRR. If I can get to 40 grand MRR, I'll be happy. It's like, how did you reach to that number? Who's your closest competition? It's not even knowing what's happening around them. The lack of understanding and their competition in their space is just mind-boggling, mate. I sometimes I sit there and I go away and I have a chat with my wife. I said, how the fuck did they become a partial millionaire? They got fucking no idea. For me, it's being in the right place at the right time. They just got lucky, mate, up to a certain point. Again, the lack of understanding where you want to be in the next 12 to 24 months, and then not having the right... Actually, the system can be built if you're hiring the right people. Yes, if I had to put my finger on the pulse, mate, founders who are really bad at sales or don't understand sales, they go out and they make bad decisions and they hire people who are not fit for the job. I've seen it day in, day out, and you know it, Gundeep. People work for people. I could be working for Google tomorrow or SEMrush. But if my immediate boss is an absolute arsehole or has no idea how it should be, like if I get a VP of sales in SEMrush, but the guy's never sold a fucking virus in his entire life, what's he going to teach me? He's going to sit in the boardroom, Google stuff, or go on ChatGPT to come up with fucking head in the clouds strategy. And this is something I see a lot of founders do. They keep making continuous bad decisions in their so-called sales process by testing stuff out which is completely irrelevant. No idea. Sometimes it's good to just leave it to the experts. But that again, you see, Gundeep, it ties down to your ego and your self-pride as a founder.
Correct.
how can I admit to someone I'm not good at that, or how would I look in front of myself, in front of my team, admitting I'm not good at that? I at White Dress, I was firm, I was fair, but my team of 23 had the complete freedom of calling me an idiot on a morning sales meeting, because we used to do a lot of brainstorming. We had this morning sales meeting every day. I'm one of those who likes to lead from the front. So even though I was head of growth at White Dress, my annual targets were the highest compared to any other sales manager in my team. My conversions were always the highest, because I wanted to be on the front line. Because again, sales is a highly dynamic process. I want to know what's happening on the front line for me to keep tweaking my templates and SOPs and standards. We want to learn from each other. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, perfectly. I'm writing it down. I know it's being recorded, but it's a very good point to take notes, because I'm learning from this at the same time. Okay. So what I can assume is the one thing is that which you're not just training for sales, you're actually also looking into the whole structure of an organization, and then you see what is actually to be achieved, what is realistic in that specific time frame, and then how to get there. And that's how so it's a bottom down to top to bottom approach. So you see both ends first, and then you make them meet. What I'm trying to assume.
Correct. So my way of working with agencies is not just sales training, it's sales training and business consultancy. Some of the clients I've got, and I've just first gone onto their website. I said, mate, your website looks like a fucking 1920s book gathering dust. It's a wall of text. What the fuck is that? So they've then gone in, I've given them exact things you should be getting. They've redesigned everything. I said, which services are the ones you can actually scale? Tell me if you've got any data, case studies, winning percentages, your testimonials, your FAQs. So it's a bit like building a house. You fix the exteriors, then you go in, and then you create pockets within that house which will start gathering you space, time, experience. So I kind of start from there, and then I go in, because what's the point of creating a sales system when your lead magnets would be lost in the warp because your website looks shit? Because tomorrow then they might say, oh, Steve's sales systems never work because we never got any conversions. Well, actually, I had nothing to do with it. So remember what I said about at the top of the call, the mentality of a romantic table and a business table. This is me preempting my own success and failures. Even the owner does not know, but I'm already foreseeing it. Hang on, if the website shit, no matter what I do, their conversions would always be lower. So this is me kind of protecting myself and my own reputation by giving out those very clear and honest observations about their business. And then once all of that is fixed, you then go ahead and building the framework, the funnel, the SOPs, the templates, the KPIs, the targets, the daily activities you should be doing through a multi-channel approach if it's only outbound. And once the cash flow and the revenue starts to come in, you then plan 10, 20, 30% into paid ads to make your sales team's life a little bit easier. So out of 6 or 8 discovery calls in a week, let the poor guys have 3 on an inbound lead, rather than it's all the time outbound.
Got it. Amazing. Very good. You talk about a framework. You just talked about SOPs in the building the process. What's a sales principle, or maybe one sales principle, maybe in one line, which you abide by, which is your go-to thing?
I'll repeat the one I said at the beginning. Like, trust, win. If they like you, they'll trust you. If they trust you, you'll normally win it. But again, mate, all of that has to be backed with a solid system of where you want to be.
Correct.
It shouldn't be blind leading the blind. You need to know where you're going. Exactly the same logic when you plan a holiday with your family. You don't just buy a random ticket. You know where to go. You know how long you want to be based on the money in your
Yes.
pocket.
Yes.
Same
Yes.
logic. People overthink. I've got a theory behind it. Because running a business is increasingly becoming competitive across any vertical, a lot of founders, new founders, are getting themselves trapped into this loop of overthinking. Like the moment they hear the word business, their brain starts overthinking. Oh no, it has to be something so unique, so different, that they overthink every aspect, which actually stalls their own growth. Mate, sometimes it's as easy as setting up few SOPs, few templates. Let's come up with an initial target for 6 months. Let's just fucking do it. Let's see where it takes us. But yeah, if I had to summarize it, like, trust, win, with a bit of strategy in place.
Very good. Amazing. So, but there's one thing which I think must add, that mostly good sales guys are good at sales, right? They But there's a difference between order takers who are taking orders, who are closing, or someone who's actually converting trust. So now, as you being in a position where you're training the sales teams and sales processes you're building, but as you just mentioned, that you are in the sweet spot where you also give them a balance, that what to actually commit and what to actually, how to sell with an SEO benefit. But what is the actually, you might have seen experiences, or you might be knowing about this better than me, of course, that selling is comparatively easier by actually retention, right? So converting with trust is more important, or maybe just closing the deals, and how to actually convert with trust.
Yeah, converting with trust, 100%, mate. The worst thing a salesperson can do is to burn a brand's image by over promising and under delivering, which a lot of. How many calls have you been on where a brand has complained? Oh, my last agency fucked me over because of this. They got me onto retainer. They locked me out of my website. Blah 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 blah. How many times I've been on numerous calls like that?
Yes.
Set and manage expectations from the get-go. This is what we do. This is where I can be flexible on. Let's test this theory for a month, 2 months, with certain clauses in place, which lets that person take that risk. Because you can't be pushing and poor brand to get into a retainer from the first order when they've just been burned and fucked over by another SEO agency. You're trying to expect something. You're trying to get blood from stones. Converting with trust would always go a long way on numerous things. The testimonials would work. You have a solid case study. Your lifetime value with that client would increase 100%. And these are the perfect people to go and ask for referrals. I have done it so many times. Like, I'll be honest, after my first 3 clients, all the other clients I got were from actually my referrals. 2 of them, I didn't even have to actually ask them. They themselves fucking recommended me because they knew, yes, Steve is a sales guy, but he's a sales guy who we like and is honest. If he can't deliver something, he'll say, listen, mate, it's probably out of my skill set. Let me recommend you to someone, you know? And I think that's where a lot of salespeople would need to start looking at their targets and saying, right, I can still achieve the same targets by not having 65 clients in a calendar in 12 months time. I could perhaps achieve my same target with 40 clients if I have a direct communication channel with the account management team and I'm actually doing after sales service. It's a classic term we use when we used to purchase cars. How is the after sales service? And our after sales service is equally important to make sure the things which were promised in the maybe not in the contract, but especially in the discovery call and strategizing part, that it was achievable, it was relevant, and in case you're screwing things up or it's not working, you should be man enough to go back month on month and see, listen, we tried this, it didn't work, we're trying this now, we're not going to charge you for this because we want to drive value. That's what people want, and they understand. SEO is such a It depends game, no matter how many
It
case
depends
studies.
game, yes.
So
Yes,
it
yes, yes,
becomes
yes.
even more important that it needs to be a collaborative approach
Hmm.
in order to scale your business. And I'm convinced if you've got 20, 30 active clients in a small agency, and if you've delivered fantastic KPIs and your ROI on the deliverables, those 30 clients alone can easily generate another pipeline of 50 clients who would then convert
Hmm.
to be 20 new clients, and then that 20 clients can generate another pipeline of 30 clients.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I'm not sitting
Hmm.
here badgering away that outbound and cold outreach is the way to go. No, I'm not an idiot. I know how difficult outbound and outreach, cold outreach can be, but you got to
Hmm.
start somewhere. If you only have
Yes.
active client base of 6, you can't ask for referrals. Like, it's not going to convert, it's not going to scale as much. But once you
Yes.
have enough clients and your referrals are attractive enough, and your account managers or sales managers are clever enough to leverage your name, I've
Hmm.
given out templates where I said, don't send the account managers asking for referrals. I'll take one guy's name, Richard. I say, Richard, your name should be part of those templates, because then it's a co-founder talking to another co-founder, and clearly there's a
Hmm.
collaborative tone in that email.
Thank you for sticking till the end of the conversation with us. We hope you found as much value as we did while creating it. If you enjoyed the podcast and want us to bring more such influential guests, then please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Honestly, each like and subscribe help us keep going. It keeps us motivated to make such content which is filled with insights and strategies for you. If you enjoyed the podcast and want us to bring more such influential guests, then don't forget to like and subscribe. Honestly, each like or a subscribe help us keep going and make such content which is filled with insights and valuable knowledge for you. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Anything you would like to tell us about the podcast? Whom do you want to see in the next podcast? And what kind of questions do you want to ask? And hey, just don't keep the conversation with yourself. Share this podcast with at least one person, can be a friend, colleague, or a family member, or anyone you think can benefit from learning something valuable or getting a fresh perspective. After all, one conversation, one perspective can truly change someone's life. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of the Business Playbook by Gundeep.